Am I adulting good?
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
I feel so anxious.
This is what it's all about.
I just don't know what I'm doing. I can't breathe.
This is what life's all about. I just don't know what I'm doing. Oh, what's going on?
I don't understand.
Welcome to the Am I Adulting Good podcast, where we talk about all things self-help and the reality behind trying to adult to our best ability in this world. We're your hosts, Brianna, Kriss,
And I'm Caroline Savransky.
and we are both in community mental health, so we've seen some pretty interesting things.
Deciding to take on the journey of self-betterment is daunting and hard. Let's make the mistakes together and share what does and does not work. Because hey, are any of us doing anything right? And if we are, how would we even know?
We will cover a variety of topics like the old self-sabotage, toxic relationships, finding yourself after a breakup, or perfectionism. Special guests will be invited for most episodes to share their experiences and wisdom.
This podcast is aimed at anyone and everyone who needs a little bit of help getting their shit together and wants some company in doing so. We're in it for the laughs, but if we can learn something on the way, then that's good too.
Am I adulting good?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Am I Adulting Good? And for this week's topic, it is something that pretty much everybody will have to deal with at some point in their life if they haven't already. And it is awful every single time it comes around. And that's dealing with a breakup. And this week we have joining us Renee Slansky, who is a professional at all things relationships. So I'd like to say hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. You know what? I don't actually get asked to do many talks about breakups. So I'm glad that we're chatting about this because obviously this is part of the whole cycle of love. So I'm excited to chat.
Well, I mean, it's the most painful, arguably the most painful cycle of love.
I don't know, kids are up there on that one.
I'm about to have my first, so don't say that.
Oh, no, it'll be wonderful. It'll be love and bliss.
You'll maintain independence and who you are, and there won't be a drain. No.
Oh gosh.
Not at all. That's exciting. How far along are you?
6.5 months. So I'm due in the first week of August.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank
Do you know the
Okay.
sex of the child?
Yeah, we're having a boy.
Oh, are you a little bit disappointed with that?
No, not at all. No. My husband is over the moon that he's having a son. I felt straight away before I even knew that it was a boy. And I had my sister-in-laws all have dreams that I was having a boy. And I'm happy with either as long as the baby's healthy.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
And sleeps through the night.
Yeah,
And I guess because
We'll
it's on the
see.
record, you have to say that. No.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everything goes well, and it's a quick birth.
Yeah, me too. Fingers crossed.
So just to get into it, who are you? How did you get into working with people around dating as a relationship coach? Yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so basically I never ever thought that I would be doing what I'm doing, never planned it, like most of the things in my life. I started off back in 2013. I started with my blog, The Dating Directory, and I started it purely because I was in a relationship with a single dad, and I felt like back then in the day, it wasn't really something talked about, what it was like to deal with someone dating with children. Dating apps had only just kind of started. Online dating was still a little bit taboo. And I wanted to basically provide, some sort of platform where women could go to be able to just have an information on what not to do and how to date and how to have relationships properly. Mind you, I pretty much, even for a few years after that, was still in really toxic relationships, including with him. And I had a 10-year stint of what not to do, basically. And from there, I then realized that I was a common denominator in my life and things needed to change. And things changed rapidly for me once I got help. And I wanted to then educate others. So I started coaching. My blog became the #1 dating and relationship blog in Australia. I started writing for the big magazines and dating sites around the world. TV, I've been, translated into different languages. I've got my YouTube channel. It all just kind of snowballed because I guess there was a real need for people to be educated on love. And so when I say, you know, my label is a dating and relationship coach, I like to think about myself more as a love educator, because I think that the world needs a love education.
It's really good to be able to give advice from a place where you've been in a dark place with a relationship. So it gives you that empathy, and to also get out of those relationships and go on to what seems like a, you know, happy, fulfilling relationship where you're having your own child now. So it sounds amazing, what you've done with the experiences that you've had. And this question is a little bit complicated because, you know, there's probably 100 answers to it. But if you could have some common denominators of what leads to a breakup.
I think, you know what, the thing is that we love to overcomplicate the whole idea of love and relationships. And it really does come down to just some fundamental things that run through every single relationship. And one of the common denominators that leads to a breakup, I'd have to say the two biggest one is unmet expectations and a communication breakdown. And a lot of people think that breakups are, oh, it all fell apart, and I don't know why, especially if you're in marriages or long-term relationships. And what I want you to think of it like is this. I want you to think of a building. And on the building, you see a crack, and you think, oh, crap, there's a crack on the building, and obviously we need to repair it. The problem is by the time you see the crack on the outside of the building, it's too late. Because what has happened is somewhere along the way, water has most likely got into the foundations of the building and started to rust something or corrode something, and it happens from the inside out. Well, I've just done renovations for the last year, so that's probably why I've been talking in building terms. But it's the same in relationships. What we see as the result, which is the breakup, is actually just something that is obviously a byproduct of what has been happening that hasn't been dealt with way early on. And that usually is somebody has this certain expectation, the other person can't meet it, or they're not communicating it properly. And then resentment sets in, you know, emotional reaction sets in. And that usually then leads to that person feeling that they're no longer fulfilled in the relationship, or that the other person isn't their person. I think another big fundamental is that we forget that people change. And, you know, going into a healthy relationship doesn't mean that the other person's not going to change. It's a good thing if somebody changes. We're always going to be growing. We're always going to be evolving as a person. And if anyone wants to get married and think, oh, so they're going to be the same person 10 years from now, I've got news for you. They probably won't be, and neither will you. And it's that ability to be able to grow through that change together in the same direction that actually helps you stay together as a couple, because either way, change is going to be inevitable.
And in saying that, because I mean, there's one thing in growing together as a couple, but there's also a thing in maintaining independence within yourself, and I guess still maintaining that identity that is separated from the partner. I mean, with everything that you've said, with the whole idea of how to communicate within love and how to actually love and what that actually means, we don't get taught during school how to, you know, talk to people not from a similar culture or from different walks of life. And so when it comes to communicating to ensure that two people are moving in that similar direction, what would that look like?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And this is why I'm so passionate about love education, is because I actually want to start bringing it into schools. I actually want it to be something fundamental, along with, like, I mean, sex education, they teach you nothing. You still walk out of school and you've got no idea, right? But I know, right? Seriously, it's like, oh, so that's how babies are made. And that's all they teach you. And like, okay. But no, but love education, I believe, is personally a life skill. It is like communicating, understanding, change, growth, self-love, all of that. So when it comes to, absolutely, you're right, maintaining your identity. When I say being a team in a relationship isn't about taking on the other person's identity. When you think of a team, you think of a soccer team, everyone has their own role. And it's important that they stick to their role. It's important that the goalie sticks in the goal. It's important that the guy in the front, I don't watch soccer, actually, you know, does his part in the front. I should have stuck to netball or something. At least I played that. But everyone has their own role. And if they don't keep that role, then everything becomes a mess. That's why teamwork isn't about losing your identity. Teamwork is about maintaining your identity in the best way possible to be the best team player possible. However, obviously, when things start to break down, and you need to be able to communicate during that time. It's about, there's actually a formula to communicate with men. There's literally a formula because men are more logical based rather than emotional based.
Please give me the formula.
So it's AEEA. So the A stands for affirm. So you affirm him first. You affirm something good that he is doing first, because the biggest love language of men is affirmation. Okay, so I think that you're doing an amazing job at work, or thank you for, I love how much you contribute to this family financially, you know, just anything that obviously builds them up, lowers their defenses. Then you explain. You always explain. You don't express emotion, because men will get on the defensive, or they just won't be able to handle our emotions as best as what they think they can, because we're wired completely different neurologically. So you explain, then you give an example, and then you ask. You ask, you don't demand. And what that does is it presents a logical example of what you're trying to express to him without all the emotion in there, which gives him an opportunity to think about things and then respond. And it's a better way for him to be able to receive communication. So I think, you know, when it comes to relationships, and if you're wanting to avoid a breakup, because that's the whole point, to avoid a breakup, is we need to understand, how do we prevent rather than just adapt? If you have a relationship that you're just constantly adapting, you're not really fixing the main problem at heart. And it's that prevention which stops the rust from getting in the building, instead of just always like, oh, quick, let's just put some more cement on the crack on the outside.
Mm. But I mean, in saying that, there is sometimes, I guess, then healthy breakups when two people have grown and developed themselves in different ways, and they may just no longer be compatible. And sometimes when people, I guess, might try so hard to keep that relationship going, when it is then kind of making it rust and wither away, when it's like you're no longer learning from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some relationships have expiry dates, and I think it's important to be able to recognize when that is there. And really, it takes a lot of courage to admit it. You know, staying in a relationship just because you've already invested so much time into it isn't going to do it any justice. You know, and you don't want to be stunting each other's growth. Obviously, the whole idea is to make sure that if you do get into a relationship with someone, that you're able to identify beforehand whether or not it has the ability to be able to last and to grow in the same direction. And there's definitely fundamentals for that as well. You know, how do they handle conflict? How do they handle growth? How do you communicate as a couple? And these are things that are really important, obviously, in the dating stages of a relationship. That's why I always say, like, pace yourself, because you're not going to know someone's personality straight away. And I believe that true compatibility isn't, oh, you know, we both like tennis, we both like coffee, we both like the same politics. I believe that true compatibility is their capacity in your capacity to be on the same page and to move in the same direction.
Conflict management.
There are people who say you pick someone, you love them, and you work through it no matter what, because you've chosen them as a person. At what point do two people in a relationship say, yes, we've chosen each other, yes, we, you know, love each other and care for each other, but we need to break up? I mean, how just those old school values of breaking up isn't an option, we've chosen each other. So what do you say to those people? How do you determine when it's a healthy time to break up?
I think, you know, obviously if you've decided to marry the person, and you've made that vow, there is a different sort of mentality that usually comes with that, which is, you know, this is for life. And we have to make it work no matter what. And I personally think that we're in a time of society where we look for the exit rather than wanting to do the work, because it's just easier to exit. We live in a divorce culture. We live in a swipe culture. What's next? I've got options if I need to. And, you know, I really believe that there are a lot of relationships that can actually be restored. However, and this is the big thing, both people need to make it work. You can't have one person doing all the work and the other person doing nothing, because it's just always going to be going around in circles. And one of the things that I was just writing an article for a big magazine yesterday, and it was about toxic cycles in relationships. And the phrase that I came up with, the first thing that came to my mind is that, healthy relationships have seasons, toxic relationships have cycles. Seasons have purpose. There's going to be seasons of winter in your relationship where it all feels cold and miserable, but there's going to be some sort of growth and nurturing that happens between that. Seasons are progressive. Cycles are just a circle that goes round and round and round and stagnates, and you never get anywhere. And obviously then that needs to be broken. In a circle, there is no end. You have to create the end. So having an objective opinion always helps. And when I say objective, I don't mean family and friends, because they can say one thing and they can just be projecting. I think seeing, a counselor or a coach or someone that is able to give you a reality check on whether or not your relationship has the ability to last and whether it should. Obviously, if there's any sort of abuse, manipulation, anything like that, that's not okay. It really depends on each person. I mean, classic story. We have a tenant and they're a brother and sister, and their parents were together for 10, 15 years, and then they separated. They got divorced. They both met someone else, and then they realized it wasn't going to work out, and then the parents got back together and remarried. 3 years later or something. And I've met a few other couples where, they've been married for like a decade or more, they've separated and they realize, hang on a second, we needed to just have that time apart to work on our own selves, and then back together again, and their marriage is more amazing than ever before. So it's hard to put everything kind of in a box. It's going to be really different for each and every person.
What are some common mechanisms to deal with a breakup?
Well, men and women handle it very differently. Men tend to go straight into, where can I get a quick fix, physical fix? Where can I, they'll instantly try to get attention from a woman or be distracted by another woman. They'll tend to go out and just not really deal with their pain emotionally as such. Not saying all men, but this is what they tend to do. Whereas a woman tends to process things more emotionally. So she'll go more into herself. She'll have her moments of cry. She'll have her girlfriend time. It won't necessarily be, I need to get on an app and find another guy. Whereas men, a lot of the times they go, quick, I need to get in the app, chat with another woman, distract. And I believe part of the reasons that happens is because there's a saying, men go looking for sex and find love. Women go looking for love and find sex. And have you heard that before? Yeah. And that's because
it's brilliant.
It's because we're wired very differently. Neurologically speaking, when a woman has sex with a guy, for example, we get a chemical released in our brain. And that chemical basically produces the attachment to a guy. So that's why we're like, oh, let's have casual sex. But for women, it's never really casual sex. She may think it is, but there's actually that chemical that is released, and she then, a part of her becomes emotionally attached, even if she doesn't want to.
That's the oxytocin?
Yes, oxytocin.
Oh, the big O.
Yeah, the other big O.
The other big O.
And sometimes you don't even get the first big O, but you're definitely going to get that O.
Worst part, they don't give you the first big O, but unfortunately you still get the second big O.
Exactly. But for men, the oxytocin doesn't get released until they feel like there's some form of security or there's some commitment to the woman that they're dating. So that's why a lot of men can, go out there, have sex, and they think, oh, this is just sex. And then all of a sudden they think, oh, actually, there's something different about this woman. I want to see her some more. I want to impress her. She makes me feel like a really great man. She affirms me, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden his oxytocin gets released because he's now wanting to emotionally attach to her. Whereas for women, it's the other way around.
Gosh, you're making so much sense. And it's true. The amount of times we're like, oh my gosh, I just need to go out and get some because I'm feeling that in my life right now. And you go in like, yeah, scored one for the night and it was over. And then the next day you're just like, wow, I actually feel crappy now. I didn't get from that at all what I thought I needed or wanted.
It's like eating a McDonald's meal. Like you're super hungry and it's always such a good idea. And then you eat it and you feel like crap afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if this is just generally my personal experience, but I have found that men tend to move on a lot quicker than women. Is that something that you've experienced in your work? And if so, why? Why are the bastards so lucky to do that?
I know, right? Okay, that basically comes down to a neurological thing. it comes down to the fact that we are mentally wired completely different to each other. And you're right, women tend to hold on to stuff. It's what we do because we're always trying to nurture something, right? It's our caveman sort of desire to want to nurture and watch this grow and, mother it. And that could be relationships, it could be a child, anything that is obviously emotionally charged. Whereas men are just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to try and fix it. If I can't fix it, then I'm going to move on to something else. They're more kind of, what's this project? What's this project? What's this project? And it's not because they're emotionally void. It's just that their brain is wired to process emotions differently. For example, when we go through teenage years, there is a part of our brain where for women, we have a little channel, I guess you could say, a little neurological path that forms during pubescence where we learn to actually process emotions into words. So that's why we're able to talk, 13,000 more words than men. That's why we're able to talk about our feelings. And it comes just naturally to us. That neurological little pathway literally doesn't happen for men automatically. They don't get it. They have to learn it and create it themselves. Otherwise, it'll never exist. So what comes to us naturally doesn't actually come naturally to men. So obviously we're going to have different experiences and different reactions to those experiences, which allow men to be able to move on a lot faster. What I do find though is that men that move on quicker often have the after regret, which is, I realized I let a good girl go. Whereas the woman's like, too bad, buddy. I've moved on. I found an amazing man. And I've actually stepped into the whole new, she's done the healing, she's done the work, and now she's leveled up. Whereas I find a lot of guys go,
yeah, the woman's like, I tried.
Yeah. So true.
So in that case, how can people approach a breakup and deal with it to be able to accept it and move on? I mean, both men and women. What would a healthy approach to breaking up look like?
The thing is with breakups is that you can't control the other person. And so whilst you may want to go in there going like, okay, let's be mature about this, let's not get crazy, you don't know how the other person's going to react, or you may have an idea. However, when they're put in this situation, anything could happen. I think the main key here is to not emotionally react all the time and to not be making decisions out of an emotional high. Being able to have a level-headed conversation if you're wanting to break up with someone. And when I say level-headed, meaning you listen more than you speak. You've already thought about what it is that you want to say and you use a tone that is soft and even. And when the other person reacts and gets angry, you don't necessarily react and get angry to them. And I think breakups are a process. I'm the sort of person, I cannot go cold turkey. Like, it's just, I take my hat off to anyone that can just like, break up with someone and never speak to them again. For me, it's just like worse than torture.
I need closure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But that's the thing. We think closure is about the other person. Closure is about you.
Mm-hmm.
Closure is a decision that you make within yourself to let go. It's got nothing to do with the other person. And so the best way to handle a breakup is don't expect so much from yourself if you know that that's not realistically who you are. For example, don't expect, oh yeah, I should just be over him because he treated me this way. Or I should just be feeling better because it's been 3 months. It's different for every person. I've known people that have, been with someone for 3 years, they broke up and they were totally fine. And then they dated someone for 3 months and it took them 2 years to get over that person that they dated for 3 months. Time isn't necessarily a measure for our healing or the rate that we should be healing. What's more important is that you allow yourself to grieve. You allow yourself to go through those emotions, but you just don't get stuck in them. I will say that. Getting stuck in the grief, and I have a little bit of a rule around this for people that need a bit of a guideline, and that is allow yourself to think about them. Allow yourself to cry, think all the what ifs and blah, 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 but only do it for 20 minutes. Set your timer for 20 minutes. Once that timer is up for 20 minutes, that is a thought pattern interrupting your brain, and now go and do something constructive.
You mean 20 minutes every hour or?
Yeah. No, because that's the thing. You'll obviously in the beginning when it's rough, you will be thinking about them constantly. If it is 20 minutes every hour, so be it. This is what I mean. Let's not put so much pressure on ourselves that we just assume that we have to be okay with the breakup when you're not going to be okay. However, it will gradually get better over time. as long as you're not sitting in that. Because what happens is whatever you continue to feed is what grows strong. So 20 minutes is still the lesser amount of time of an hour. So obviously if we're feeding something strong for 40 minutes, eventually that thing that we're feeding that is positive for us will actually start to continue and become stronger and stronger and stronger, and the pain will become less and less and less.
So do you believe in the whole concept of a rebound?
Like as in people have rebounds to try and get over someone, or a rebound works?
Yeah, both, I guess. I mean, I think it's safe to say that people often do go and have a rebound and things, but do you think that it could actually be conducive to allowing a person to move forward?
Oh, I don't think it's the wisest thing to do. I mean, obviously people do rebounds all the time. It's normal. You want a distraction. You want attention. You want to feel needed and loved, and you want something that is going to make you stop thinking about the other person. I don't think that it is wise. Most of the time it doesn't work out. I think that healing isn't about expecting it from somebody else, whether it's an ex that you want to go back to, or a rebound, or a one-night stand. Healing comes from a process. And a part of that process is allowing yourself to feel the pain. Like I said, you've got to grieve. When someone dies, you grieve, right? You don't instantly go, well, I'm fine. You mourn them. You emotionally mourn their loss. And the worst part is a breakup is they haven't died. They still exist. And you've got to keep living knowing that they do exist, but you feel like there's a hole in your life, and trying to fill that hole with sex, alcohol, fast pleasures, highs that aren't going to last is not going to be sustainable. It's understandable, but it's not going to be sustainable. And I think the reason why a lot of people delay their healing and delay their ability to be able to move on is because they go with how they feel rather than what is wise in that moment.
I know I try to fill the hole of the breakup by maintaining a friendship, or trying to maintain a friendship with them, because it's like, hey, we've broken up, but I can still talk to you. It never works.
Never
works. Do you recommend after a breakup to just cut ties?
I think there needs to be a period of no contact. Absolutely. I mean, if you've got children with them, it's obviously different. If there's, or a business or something where you're legally tied to them, you can't just be like, well, see you later, alligator, don't talk to me. It's, however,
I'm leaving and take my debt.
Exactly. And my children.
And my children.
But, in instances where, and I see this happen all the time, they're like, oh, let's just stay friends. I really don't recommend it. And I've worked with clients and they've tried to stay friends. And what it does is you never really give yourself a chance to fully heal without that person, because there's still some sort of tie there. I think that, like I said, if you're not somebody that can go cold turkey, that's okay. Wean yourself off that person. Meaning, every now and then you might send them a text saying, oh, I miss you. I wish things were different. Don't beat yourself up for that. But also have some boundaries around that, so it's not something that you feel that you can constantly do and then justify it because, oh, Renee said that I can, wean myself off it. It's not about that. There needs to be some sort of strategy. I think giving yourself the opportunity to live and exist without them in your world, meaning no contact, no messages, no emails, no stalking their Facebook, their social media, all of that really does help with the healing process, as painful as it is, because then your brain actually starts to learn to function without them. And that's what you want.
And reestablish yourself without them as part of your identity.
Absolutely.
I guess. And also learn who you are, because a big thing of relationships is having a healthy amount a lot of the time of codependency with a person, because that's what a relationship entails. But to then break away from a person and then have to establish yourself without them in your life is a big challenge.
Yeah, and I think you don't want to just be jumping from one relationship to another, and people who struggle to let go of someone often want to get into another relationship straight away and become attached too soon to someone, and then it just becomes this cycle because they haven't actually learned how to be their own person outside of a relationship.
I just don't know how people do it. I've got a few friends who we call serial monogamists, because in, they don't spend they don't spend greater than 3 months max alone before they're just in another full-blown relationship with another person. And then you have someone like Caroline and I who are just sitting here like waving our hands, being like, hi, I'm free.
I've been single for so long that I legitimately don't know what it would even be like to be in a relationship again.
No, it's true. It's true. Like, I remember I had a girlfriend that she was always engaged. I think she got engaged like 3 times. I was like, I can't even get a boyfriend and you've already had like 3 husbands.
Right?
But that's not healthy. That's not healthy. It's having extremes. Okay, so if you're someone that doesn't know how to be without someone, that's not ideal. But if you're someone that becomes used to not having anyone to a point where, and I see this with women as they enter into their 30s and 40s, where they're just so independent that they lose touch with how to be flexible. They lose touch with how to, step into a relationship and do it in such a way that it can be something that, is fulfilling. And that's what you want to try and avoid. You want to try and avoid those extremes, finding the balance in the middle and knowing, where to compromise. And compromise isn't settling for second best. Compromise is healthy in a relationship, as long as it's done, obviously, on foundations where you understand, okay, what is actually healthy here, which is the problem with a lot of people out there, is they're like, oh yeah, well, I compromised. And it's like, well, actually, no, you settled for second best in that. You call it compromise because obviously you have a lack or a fear in there, which is driving that action and that choice.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to actually breaking up, you've got the rule of, just think about them for 20 minutes, but put that boundary up, and try not to engage in those activities that remind you of them. What can people do to, I guess, reestablish that connection with themselves and that identity with themselves? Are there any proactive things that they can, I don't know, do on a daily basis or plan to do to try to know themselves a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key things to do first, if you're going through a breakup, is do some sort of exercise so that you can boost those endorphins and actually start to shift your mood. I think journaling can really help as well. Writing, how you feel, what it is that you want, and really focusing on things that you're passionate about, things that maybe keep you creative, because that switches on a different part of your brain. Focusing on your goals, your dreams, your visions, because you don't want to be constantly stuck in the past or how can I go back and change it. The thing is with your brain is your brain doesn't know the difference between what it has experienced and what you tell it to experience. So if you're telling it to experience positive things like, okay, well, 6 months from now, I want to be traveling around South America because that's a dream that I have. Okay. And you start to focus on that and plan that, even if you know it's not entirely possible, but you're being proactive about trying to create the future that you want or create the emotional state that you want, eventually your brain will start to believe that this is going to be your reality. And so then you will automatically feel that way, or that stuff will start to manifest into your life. And this is why one of the big things I say that's really key when you do breakups is, it's not fun, but it's really discipline of thoughts. Discipline of thoughts and taking control and being conscious as much as you can on a daily basis will help you start to build a new subconscious and a new habit around your healing and around being okay without this person in your life. One of the simple things is, like, I remember when I was breaking up with that horrible ex before I met my husband, was, the radio would come on and your song would come on and you'd just go off into a daydream and you'd be like, woe is me. And I was like, no, I don't want to be sitting here in my car listening to a song that reminds me of him, and just being consciously aware that that was happening, stopping myself in that train of thought, literally using a physical action to change the radio station. Instantly, I've given myself an opportunity to move in a new direction. So I think, as women, we love to daydream. We love to get stuck in that whole romanticized idea of a breakup as well. Because it indulges our emotional side, right? However, we need to be a little bit more disciplined in those stages so that you can set yourself up to heal faster.
How do you feel about the breakups that last for months, years, the on again, off again, and it has so much passion and it's toxic, but people love it because it's like, this could be the last time we ever have sex. And like, it creates this passion that's so dangerous. How do you feel about the on again, off again relationships that are doomed, essentially?
Well, that was pretty much my relationship with my ex, which was on and off for 3.5 years. Incredibly toxic. Absolutely. Toxic relationships are addictive because of the drama and because of the hope. And you go through a phase where you have extreme attachment, then you have obviously anxiety, then conflict, then you have a climax, and you have negotiation, then you have one person that withdraws, then you have separation anxiety, and then it's back to intimacy again, right? And it just becomes, like I said, it's a cycle. It's just this thing that you go round and round and round on, with extreme highs, extreme lows. And it's something that, because it is pushing on extreme chemicals in your brain becomes addicted to it. Okay, it's like when you have a drug, you want an extreme high, you want to have that extreme high. You know the lows are crap, but you're just waiting for that next high to come along. And it's something that I see a lot of women get trapped into because they've obviously either got some sort of trauma from their past, they haven't got the strength to be able to leave, and they think that strength is just something that you wake up to one day, instead of understanding it's something that you gradually have to build. In this case, it's not a real breakup because you're actually not breaking up from those people. It is an on-off situationship that needs to have accountability, and that needs to have a strategy in order to be able to exit. If you're just relying on yourself to be able to exit something from that, I can tell you right now, you'll still be probably in it a year again from now. I've lived it. I've seen clients live it. It's something that you need to actually have, like a strategy to be able to get out of.
How would one go about creating that strategy? What would be their first steps? Because it's that whole, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be on a diet sort of vibe, and it never actually quite comes. What could people do?
The thing is that in that sort of case, it's not about waiting for the other person to change. It's about identifying, okay, if this is toxic, what can I do in this moment to be able to break this cycle? And whether that's one day at a time, going, okay, for me, for example, I'll give you an example of what I did. I was like, right, first thing I'm going to do is I am not going to be intimate with him anymore. I'm going to say, look, I've decided that I'm really going to just go back to my faith and I don't want to have sex. So that gave me an opportunity to break a tie, because obviously every time that you have sex with someone, the oxytocin gets released and the attachment becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So maybe setting yourself up in stages, right? First thing's that. Next stage might be, okay, I am going to start to limit communication. I am going to start to keep myself busy with other things so that I don't have the opportunity to see them all the time. Again, some of the people out there listening might be able to go cold turkey, and I think obviously that is an amazing thing if you can, but if you can't, you have to be able to set yourself up, like I said, to build strength and to know how to cope without that person, so that when they want to try and pull you back in, which they will, or when you feel something for them and you feel tempted to fall back into a relationship with them, you've got the strength to be able to say no, or you've got the support group around you and the accountability to say, where are you going? You shouldn't be going to his house right now. Do you think it's a good idea? It really is about just understanding who you are as a person, what your, weaknesses are when it comes to why you're wanting to be with this person. And are you someone that you feel like you can constantly save them? Hence why whenever they reach out to you, and look, my ex was someone that would emotionally blackmail me, sending me pictures of him trying to cut himself. And then I'd be like, I have to go back and save him. And you know what I mean? It's something that you have to understand, okay, where am I at? And what could be my little things that could pull me back into this? Work on that. And by default, the strength to be able to leave will come.
Hearing that just makes me so angry. People are so selfish. Yeah, that's really hard. And no one should have to go through that, because, that person is essentially saying you are responsible for this. And that is just the most incorrect thing that you can do to another person. And that's
dating a narcissist. At the time, I didn't know it was a narcissist, and it wasn't until I'd gotten out of it and did my healing, I was like, oh, that's a narcissist, right? Okay.
Well, it's the case, though. You never see things clearly until you're out of it, and you can look at it from a different perspective. And I'm happy you're out of that.
Narcissists are very charming.
Oh, Absolutely. And that's why, like, we're women who, you know, we have this romantic, feminine, beautiful desire in our heart, and we want to be charmed. And if we're not able to realize, well, who's the person behind the charm, then that's where you find yourself in those sort of relationships. And look, I wasn't perfect in that relationship as well, because I created drama out of my own insecurity. But I also believe that you can be an amazing woman, and someone can make you toxic in a relationship because they're so toxic.
Oh,
100%.
Absolutely. I have been in those situations where I look at myself in a relationship and I'm like, I hate who I am. This is not who I want to be. And I can't tell if you've made me into this or the situation has made me into it, but you just totally can lose yourself in a toxic relationship and become a version of yourself that you're ashamed of.
Yeah,
Well, it says
absolutely.
something if you're in a relationship and you're not the best version of you in it. I guess that's something also to look out for. But I mean, with all these ways of trying to deal with a breakup, as you've already said, you know, it's different for when people have these other things that tie them together, like children and, you know, businesses. I can't even fathom how people can navigate that and get closure and move on when that person is around them so consistently from no fault other than the fact that they have, you know, a child together or a business they have to run. How can people find that space and that serenity when that reminder is consistently in their face?
I think, you know, it's something that you can't avoid. But as I was saying before, closure is something that you create. Peace is something that you create. And it can't be based off circumstances or other people, because that's something that you can't always fully control. Having strong boundaries and clear communication around how to manage the children, how to manage the business, helps reinforce what you want to build outside of that person. So, for example, you know, if your ex-husband's moved on and he's got a wife that's like, or a fiance or a girlfriend that's just a little bit crazy, it's going to be really hard knowing that your children are in that environment, or that you still have to deal with him, and that other woman's in the picture and she's not the best. And obviously he's going to be on her side, not your side. So having clear communication around that, clear boundaries around that might be okay. Only when you talk, it's only about business, or when you talk, it's only about the children. Having some sort of agreement. Obviously, again, some people are really difficult, so there might have to be some mediation in between there with a professional. It's never going to be ideal. I've known people that have broken up with their husbands and they've got children, and at first their husband and everything's really mature and really awesome, and then all of a sudden things do change down the track. This is why learning to create your peace outside of what you have with that person and making that your sole focus is going to help balance out whatever crap happens with the past or with the ex. I ran a business with, I've done everything.
Yeah.
That's why I meant, like, I had a business with a boyfriend. Well, this was in my early 20s. I had an agency. We separated and we still ran the business together, and I was still in love with him. And he moved on to another girl. And, you know, it's difficult because tension's there, conflict's there, feelings and emotions are still there, but you're not the priority anymore. And, you know, eventually I got out of that business anyway. It wasn't right and it wasn't healthy. But yeah, it takes discipline of your emotions and knowing your limits. If you know that you're about to explode, or you know that you're about to say something that you shouldn't be saying, or a threat's going to happen, it's about going, okay, I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I'm going to go and do something that recharges me energetically, or something that gives me peace, whether it's exercise, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's like, you know, meditation. You don't focus on them, focus on you. Know you first. Know what you need to be able to create that peace, and do that.
In the same vein, but on a slightly different trajectory, we spoke about, you know, having shared custody of kids, owning a business. What if you're in the same friendship circle and you see them at parties, you see them at weddings, and, you know, your friends all have an opinion about it. Your friends love them. Like, I mean, not that that's to me, absolutely not. But like, I found it so hard to deal with it, because it's like, they that your friends that are supposed to say, you can do better, or, move on. They're friends with your partner, with your ex-partner.
Yeah, it's awkward. Absolutely. And I think I have like a 3-month rule as a guideline. And I think the first 3 months, there needs to be as minimal contact, seeing each other, social mediaing each other, texting each other as possible, for you to at least have one whole season to be able to begin the healing and reclaim your identity out of that person. So that might mean having to say no to a wedding. It might mean having to say no to social events if you know that he's going to be there. And it doesn't mean that, obviously weddings are hard because they come around like once in a while. There might have to be some sort of, okay, if you do decide to go to that wedding, deciding, okay, I'm not going to be near him when I see him. I'm going to be civil. If my friends want to talk about him, I'm going to stop them. Because us girls love to chat and dissect everything, but it doesn't help with the healing process. And so saying to them, look, I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about something else. And having the courage to do that means that you're then in control of the conversation, which is going to make you feel like you're more in control of the situation around you as well. But don't be afraid to, I don't want to say isolate, but separate yourself from situations where you know that he's going to be there for at least the first 3 months.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm weary of the time at the moment and could just talk to you for hours and hours. And it has been amazing having you on. Thank you so much. And to ask, if people want to find resources on this, find you and the dating directory and all the rest, how can they reach you?
So the best way is probably go to my YouTube channel. It's just Renee Slansky. And I've got heaps of videos on there, from everything from long distance to dating to relationships to marriage, you name it. Or you can go to my social media. Everything's just my name, Renee Slansky. I keep it really simple. If you search me on Instagram, Facebook, my website's reneeslansky.com. I've got some downloadable things in there as well, and free masterclasses. And so people can go and just eat your heart out.
Thank you. We forgot to ask you this at the beginning, but a question we generally always open with is, what does adulting mean to you?
I was thinking about this during the week as I was doing the washing, and I was like, adulting to me is having proper sheets and proper towels and receiving mail that's mostly bills.
Do the sheets and towel have to match the decor of the home? Or?
Right. Yeah. So, when you're in your 20s and you have like crappy towels, or you don't have a second pair of sheets, it's like, for me, if I'm being a proper adult and I'm in my 30s, I've got a nice pair of sheets, I've got a spare nice pair of sheets, and I've got towels that are actually clean and fluffy.
Are they linen? Are they 500 grade Egyptian cotton? What type of sheets are we talking about?
They're good quality. They're ones that you like actually want to sleep in and you feel like, okay, this is nice to sleep in. So
especially when you get into your 30s, you need that.
Yes.
You need good quality sleep, and the sheets make all the difference. And a good night.
I posted on Facebook today because there's this ongoing debate in my household whether you're a top sheet person or not. I'm a person, I don't like the top sheet. I'm a fitted sheet person only because I kick it to the bottom. It makes me feel claustrophobic. I just can't do it. I have to ask, are you a top sheet person?
I am. I'm the full shebang. I'm like fitted, top, doona, blanket, 500 pillows on the bed, which my husband's just like, why do we need all these pillows? I'm just like, but we always grew up with the whole top sheet thing in our house. And it's funny because here in Europe, no one really uses top sheets. And I'm just like, but that's just annoying. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. It's like a piece of the burger's missing or something.
You get on with my housemate. She thinks I'm barbaric that I don't use a top sheet.
It is. I'm just like, it's so uncivilized.
So the last thing we usually finish off with is the Holy Trinity with our guests. So we ask them about a brag, desire, and gratitude.
Okay. I am grateful for my husband and my dog, especially being in confinement for the last year. So that's been nice to have them here. I am bragging that I've been translated into 3 different languages for my work, which is exciting.
Oh my God.
And one desire is I'd love to be able to go see my family in Australia again. I haven't been able to do that because of COVID, so that would be nice, especially with the baby.
And will that be in the foreseeable future at all?
Oh, who knows with what's going on with the whole travel restrictions. Look, we can go there, but it's going to cost us a lot of money at the moment, so it doesn't make sense. We are hoping to move back to Australia eventually, definitely. So that is in maybe the next year or so. We just want to wait until restrictions ease a little bit, because like we've got to take the dog back, you know, we'll have a baby, we'll be literally shifting our life over there and starting from scratch. So at the moment, with all the quarantining and everything that's going on, it's just a bit full on.
Yeah. Well, if you pop by Sydney, come say hi. No.
Absolutely. For sure.
Thank you so much for your time. You've been incredibly insightful and an absolute delight to talk to. And you've dealt with all of our harassing questions that may or may not be personally related.
Yeah.
To our love life.
No,
Thank
it's
you
been
so
my
much.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Renee was just so amazing. And she said so many things that I needed to hear. I mean, Brianna, you know how I am after a breakup. I am a mess.
You are.
Yeah, I'm a mess with or without a breakup. But, you know, a breakup just adds that extra layer of mess. And it's just so good to hear like this very practical, down-to-earth advice. And also, I really needed to hear that the closure can't come from the other person. It has to come from you, because I'm constantly in a breakup reaching out and trying to get closure, and it'll never happen. It can't happen. That person will never be able to tell you what you need to hear. So, you know, that was just really good to hear from her.
Got to create it for yourself there, Caroline. It's so informative, so intelligent in this space, because we don't get taught how to grieve, how to deal with relationships or people, and to be able to have such an informative person like Renee to share with us. I'm so grateful for her company on the podcast today. So yeah, it's really lovely. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Am I Adulting Good podcast. We hope you guys are getting out of it as much as we are and are learning a trick or two about how to adult. Please give us a review and a 5-star rating, like our podcast, and follow our channel on whichever streaming app you're using. It really helps us reach more people and build our community.
Hit us up on Instagram at Am I Adulting Good? Also, remember to send us your Holy Trinity and share your stories with us at amiadultinggood@gmail.com. Each week, we'll share one of our adulters' emails, and that could be you. Seriously, we love hearing from you. Keep doing your thing, adulters. We love you. We love you.
Am I adulting good?